Hey there, Pro Church Media community. This is Jason again. This is going to be another fun tutorial, I hope. We're going to be looking at how to basically destroy everything that you make with some great glitch effects. So we're going to be doing something a little bit like this. You can see it basically just messes up everything in a really nice, glitchy kind of way, and we're going to be doing all of this inside of After Effects with no third-party plugins. So you don't have to buy anything extra or anything like that. You can just make some cool glitch effects, and we're going to set it up so you can reuse it with different things, and it's going to be awesome. However, if you are looking for some kind of more out-of-the-box solutions, here's a couple recommendations. The first, if you go to aescripts.com and look for the TV Distortion Bundle from Robyte. They have a great collection of glitch effects. You get, with this Distortion Bundle, you get 5 different things here, which will just, I use them all the time. They work amazingly well. And so if you want to save yourself a lot of time and maybe pull off some things you might not be able to do very easily just inside of After Effects, you might want to think about picking this up. Another one that is actually free is from rocketstock.com, and it's called the Digital Distortion template. You can download this for free. It's also really awesome, gives you tons of controls and stuff like that. The only real downside to it is that it's very render intensive. So if you do end up using this, just make sure you have a lot of time to render out the final product. But again, highly recommend this as well, and it's free, so you might as well go grab it and play around with it. It also can be helpful to maybe deconstruct it a little bit to see how they pulled it off, so then maybe you can apply that to your own glitch effects. Okay, so like I said, we're going to be doing something like this, and I basically just have a piece of footage here that I'm using as the base for this, and then we're just going to toss a bunch of different effects on top of it, a little bit of masking, a little bit of expressions, and it's going to be awesome. So let's get some free footage. If you go to prochurchmedia.com/freechurchmedia and scroll down a ways to the free video section, there's this one here called Vimeo Free HD, and so if you go to that, it'll take you to this page with free HD stock footage, and I just grabbed this one right here, the Defocus Bokeh Leak Light Orange and Shine, and we're going to be using that as the base of our glitch effect. Alright, I'm going to start by creating a new composition. I'll just call it Glitch, and I'm going to make it 1920 by 1080, 24 frames a second, and since my footage is 10 seconds long, I'm just going to make this composition 10 seconds long. Alright, and I will also want to make another composition, which is going to be a pre-comp that I put my footage into, so that later on, if I want to change out that footage, I can just put it into that pre-comp, and I'm good to go. Don't have to worry about effects or anything else like that. So let's just call this footage, same parameters, hit OK, and then let's drop that into the original glitch composition. Now we can put our footage into this pre-comp, and we're good to go. Okay, so as you watch this, you can see, it's very smooth, very, subtle and natural looking, which is great for how this footage is. But I really want it to be a little more glitchy and not as smooth and stuff like that. So a great way to do that is to add a posterized time effect, which is going to help give it a little bit of a stutter and kind of that almost stop motion-y feel. You don't have to do this, but I think it just helps to sell the effect a little bit more. So if you come up to Effect, and then Time, and then Posterize Time, I'm just going to set it to something like 8. And then as you watch this, you can see it definitely has almost more of that really bad kind of footage look. And so I think that'll just really help with this. Okay, for the next step, I'm going to duplicate this, maybe scale it up to like 220, something like that. It doesn't matter if it pixelates because the whole thing's going to just be destroyed by the end, and I think it'll actually help sell the effect a little bit more too. I'm going to flip it horizontally, flip it vertically, move it around, because we're going to be matting this in different ways to help just offset it from the bottom piece, and it'll look really cool. But let's disable this for now. And let's work on our matte. So I'm just going to get my rectangle tool and just draw a rectangle here. It doesn't matter what color it is. I'm just going to be making a bunch of these that are going to be shifting positions and scale via expressions, so I don't have to do a whole bunch of keyframes. And so let me just solo this a second. So I want to add a kind of a wiggle effect to it, but if you've ever used the wiggle effect, you know it makes very smooth changes in motion. Let me just show you real quick. So maybe I want to do it for the position, so I'll alt-click on the position, type wiggle, parentheses, maybe something like 5. Let's do like 250. Close the parentheses, and now you see it's wiggling around. That's great, but it's too smooth. I really want it to be a little more stuttery. Now I could add the posterized time effect to this layer, and that would be fine, but you can also add it to the expression, and that's going to help me vary it up among all the rectangles. So I have an expression here called posterize wiggle, and I'll be putting this into the comments of this tutorial video. But basically, as I break it down, so this F is basically the frequency, the A is the amplitude in pixels, and then the posterized time is telling it to posterize the frequency, and then the wiggle is using the parameters for frequency and then amplitude, just like the normal wiggle. And so let me go ahead and just copy this, and then I will paste it right here. And now as we watch it, you can see, it's shifting positions. It's almost like a hold keyframe, and then it moves position, and so it's working exactly how I want to. And I'm going to copy this again. I'm going to do the same thing for scale, paste it there, and then maybe take the amplitude down to like 54 or something like that. And so now the scale is going to shift as well, and so it's just going to give me a lot of variation without having to do anything with keyframes. Okay, so now that I have one rectangle done, I can just start duplicating and doing different things with this, and so I might just kind of shift it like that. And every time you duplicate it, it's gonna change these up, so don't worry too much about the position and scale right now, because it's gonna shift every time you make a new one. And so I'm just putting these in different places, different sizes. This one might be way too big to begin with. Let's try something like that. And so I'm just kind of putting these in different places, not really worrying too much about any kind of specific positioning or anything like that. And I'm basically just trying to make it look as random and glitchy as possible. And so let's see what that looks like. So as I play this back, you can see we're already getting that kind of very glitchy, almost scan line effect going on, that digital distortion type of look. And now what I can do is if I double click E, it's going to open up all the expressions. And so if I wanted to, I could just go in here and just modify these so they don't all look exactly the same. And maybe some of them are going faster. Maybe they don't have as much amplitude change. And I'm not going to go through every single one of these just because it's going to take too long, but you can see it doesn't take too long to just vary these up. And let's just see. Yeah, I think that's enough variation as it is, just because of how many there are and the different parameters we're changing. So I think that'll work great. So let's just call this footage matte. Right, and then unsolo it, and then I'm just going to use that as a track matte, so we'll do the alpha matte and make sure it's turned back on, and you can see what we have going on here, and that's kind of cool looking. So we're well on our way to making this very glitchy, and you don't even have to worry about it looping just because of how random it is, so it's pretty much always gonna look like it loops okay. So we're going pretty well here. Let me look back at the original, see what I did next. Okay, so in the original I have this kind of pixelated effect, almost like a LED wall or something like that. And so let's put that on there. I'm going to make a new adjustment layer, call this Pixelate. And there's a fun effect called CC ball action, which adds all these tiny little balls to your composition, and as you mess with the grid spacing, and you can kind of see what's going on here, the ball size. And so you can make some fun looking effects with this. I mean, if I want to do like a kind of almost LED wall type of thing, that's kind of cool looking, but not quite what we're doing. Maybe we'll do something like that in a different tutorial. So I'm going to pull the grid spacing down. Let me just see what I did over here. 3 and 74. Okay. So we'll just do grid spacing of 3, 74 for the size, and we got some good pixelation going on there. So it almost looks like an old TV or something like that. Cool. I'm going to duplicate this again just to kind of intensify it just a little bit. I think that's what I did there. And then one more time, and we'll set it to add just to intensify it a little bit more. And I might have taken down the opacity a little bit. Okay, so we'll take it down to about 70, 73, something like that. Cool. All right. Next, we're gonna do, okay, so you can see these kind of little glitchy boxes here, which also help to sell that kind of digital distortion thing. It's almost like artifacts or something like that. So we're gonna add those via a color emboss effect. We're also gonna do some more mattes with this. Yeah. Okay, so what we want to do is add a new effect or adjustment layer. I'm just going to call it color emboss. And go to effect, stylize, color emboss. Let's see what parameters I used. 45, 940, 185. 45, 185. What else did I do? 9.4. Okay. So this is just, you can kind of see what it's doing. It's embossing it here, but it's doing it with color, which is great. And it looks like I also added a hue saturation effect just to be able to control the color of this. So if you go to color correction, hue saturation, I think I did it before, and you can just spin it around to different colors. Let's start with a blue. Okay, so it's actually kind of cool to have it color embossing the entire thing. I don't actually want that, so we're going to be making another matte. So I'm just going to start drawing some little squares, kind of like I did before. And I think, let me just see what I did here real quick. Okay, I'm just going to copy what I did here just to speed things up. So again, I'm just going to add it to the position, and then, and so you can see it's, let me solo this, it's going all around the place, and then let me just copy this one and we'll add it to the scale. And so now it's, not perfect squares all the time, looks great. And you could, do to the skew, rotation, all that kind of stuff if you wanted to. See, it's really a flexible way to do this. All right, so now I'm just going to start duplicating this and just dragging these. Sometimes you have to be careful of how you drag them around. You might accidentally scale them without wanting to, like so. Oops. And sometimes you can just start duplicating and it's going to automatically position them all over the place, and then if you want to, you can just go in and drag them around. So just duplicate a few more here, and I think that will probably be plenty. Alright, so let's call this Emboss Matte. Excuse me. Add the alpha matte, and you can see we have our bluish boxes going on there. And because we have this pixelate effect going on too, well actually it's not even the pixelate effect. That emboss is kind of adding some of that texture to these, but when you add the pixelate effect, it kind of gives you that nice glitchy feel even on the boxes. So this is looking pretty good, I think. And a fun thing you could also do is we could change the color if we wanted to by doing the same thing. Alright, I'm going to do another color emboss just to get some different colored rectangles. You can see there's like some greenish ones in there too. So I'm just going to duplicate both of these layers and just change the hue saturation until maybe that green would be fine. You can do whatever you want with it, of course. And I don't even probably have to reposition the rectangles if I don't want to, because they already have been repositioned. So I think this is working pretty well. Okay, what's next? Next we're going to do, you can see these kind of these almost scan lines that are here, which I'm basically doing an RGB shift. So we're going to be changing the way that the color channels are mapped. So let's create a new adjustment layer, call this RGB Shift. And I'm going to add a effect. If we go to channel and then set channels, you can set red's channel to like green. You can see kind of what it's doing, and you can just play around with it until you get something that you like. And yeah, maybe we'll do something like that. I'm gonna make another bunch of rectangles here. You can kind of see what I did here. So I basically just drew a bunch of rectangles across the entire screen and then just added a slight posterized wiggle on it. So I'm just going to copy this and come back to this and just start drawing those rectangles again. Maybe something like that. Come down to the position, paste that expression on there, and that looks pretty good. And then just duplicate that rectangle and just start pulling these down. Just space them out. You might want to not space them out perfectly, and it doesn't matter because they're going to be moving a bunch anyway. So just do this until you get a good amount, good spread in there, and I think something like that will probably be pretty good. Let's call this RGB Shift Matte. Do the alpha matte, and so you can see it's radically changing the color there. And if you wanted to, you could use a blending mode or something like that if you wanted to. I'm probably going to drop the opacity down pretty low, maybe something like 20 or something. I just want it to be pretty subtle like that, which I think looks nice. Alright, and then I'm going to do another RGB shift just by duplicating everything. I don't even have to move these again, probably. I could maybe just move them all up like that. And this, I'm just going to change up the way the color channels are mapped. Maybe something like that. And then do it one more time. And maybe move this matte again. And then just shift these color channels again. Maybe play around with the blending mode a little bit. Maybe lower it. I think something like that will work. And so I'm just kind of stacking effect upon effect just until I get something that looks very cool, very glitchy, something like that. Okay, that's looking good. The final thing, I think, or one of the close to the final things, you can see these kind of big blocky movements here that are just kind of chopping everything out. And so we're going to be adding those as close to the final step. So again, I'm going to add an adjustment layer. I'm going to call this transform. And we'll come to effect and then distort and then transform. And so I basically want to, let's see what I did here. So it looks like I just basically changed the scale on this. Okay, so I'll just copy this and let's see. Okay, so I'm going to add that expression to the scale, paste it there, and now you can kind of see that it's randomly scaling everything underneath. And we need to make another map for this, so like we've done before, I'm just going to start adding some big blocks here. And of course, let's see what I did. for this. I'm just going to copy this. I did position and scale again. So once again, I'll just add this expression to the position. Let me grab that scale. And I'm not taking the time. Normally I would probably go in and modify these just to give them a little bit of randomness, but I think this will be fine for right now. Also, we'll save time. So, alright, so then I'm just going to duplicate this and you know, maybe change the way it's shaped, put a little bit different position, do the same thing for another one, maybe one more, and then we'll be done here. Alright, let's call this transform matte. Add the track matte, and let's see what that looks like. Yeah, so we're getting those nice big blocky shifts going on. And I apologize for how terrible this looks. I have to have it on quarter resolution to make sure this plays back reasonably well. And so I think that's looking good. Alright, let's add a quick curves adjustment just to make it look a little prettier. Alright, color correction, curves. Maybe punch up the contrast. Maybe fade it out a bit. Boost those highlights. Maybe make it punch up the reds a bit. Let's see what we can do with the blues. I don't think there's many blues in there anyways, so I don't think the greens will do much either. Yeah, keep it more in the orange tones. I think something like that'll work. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, that's looking nice. I might move this original footage around a little bit. Let's try it over here. I kind of like that better, I think. Yeah, that looks nice. Cool. And you could, of course, do this, you know, a few more times as well, just to get even more variation. So maybe I'll duplicate that, move, you know, this over. Maybe not. Maybe flip the vertical. Maybe just shift some of these rectangles around. Something like that. And now we have even more glitchiness going on. Utterly destroyed this beautiful footage, but that's exactly what we wanted to do. Alright, one last thing I'm going to add is just a directional blur. And I'm going to have it go to the, just to the right or horizontally. So if you go to blur and sharpen, directional blur, I'm going to do 90 degrees, and then let's see what I did here. Looks like I just added another expression here. So I'm gonna, for the blur length, I'm just gonna paste in that same expression we've been using. I boosted up the amplitude pretty high, so now every once in a while it's gonna blur everything, and it's gonna give it just even a little more glitchiness. And yeah, I think that looks pretty cool. And so we're pretty much done here. We've made a nice cool glitch effect using just After Effects and its built-in tools. And as you can see, there's tons of different ways you can modify this to work with different pieces of footage and to get even more effects. This is just kind of scratching the surface of it. So hope this is helpful. Go in there, make some cool glitch effects, utterly destroy the beautiful footage that you shoot, and we will talk to you later.